Hey there everybody, welcome to another episode of Stand Your Ground Studio. This is Scott, and in the last couple of weeks, you've probably been hit with a wave of YouTube videos, memes, and propaganda on almost every topic. But in the midst of all the hype, I found this absolute gem of a video where an ex-CIA operative tells us that the stories behind 9/11 and the wars on terror are largely manufactured by an elite few. And it's from the globalist mouthpiece AJ+. And in case you don't know who they are, here's a description from their Facebook page. We're part of a global generation without borders, connected to issues that impact your life, our world. AJ+ is a global news community for the connected generation. We highlight human struggles and achievements, empower impassioned voices, and challenge the status quo. Now in this video, a former CIA officer gives a perfectly scripted example of the elite exposing their own corrupt system to help bring about a false awakening. And this is like the majority of what I talk about on this channel. As you will see, she puts the perfect bite-sized sample of truth out there for the masses to absorb, and it's working because it's gotten like 40 million views in a little over a day. Now I'll play the whole video back at the end, and as you watch it, notice how she does the following. First, she brings up the fact that many US citizens have an oversimplified view of 9/11 and the war on ISIS. The masses have these thoughts in their head because of an elite few that have manufactured the stories in advance. And this, by the way, implies that the mainstream media might have had something to do with it, but she doesn't say that explicitly. Those few people who are in charge are keeping everyone down by constantly waging wars. And I think on some level everyone's ready to finally hear this, that's why they're coming out with it. She rightly points out that citizens in Syria and Iraq and elsewhere are basically in a torture zone, and this is the main selling point here because she brings up the point that if we're brave enough to listen to their story, we might learn something about our enemies and see how we're a lot alike. Now up to that point, I generally don't disagree with the script, and I say that because I never want to be mistaken for someone who doesn't care about the tortured existence of so many people out there. That's not the point of this channel. But herein lies the danger. This whole video is yet another pen stroke in the globalist script to convince an entire generation that maybe, just maybe, a world without borders isn't such a bad thing. And let's stop with thinking that one religion is any worse than another or any different for that matter, and finally just choose to get along. Because you know, world peace is a day-to-day decision after all, and we have to set aside our differences, right? It sounds like enlightenment to most people, but it's really just programming. And it's meant to get you to willingly throw away your personal national sovereignty, and we all kind of meld together and lose our identity in the long run. And people will be far more willing to accept this reality once they are shown just how corrupt and bankrupt our system really is. So the truth is coming out right now so that we collectively expose the old guard and act out against them. Unfortunately, many truthers will fall in line with this pre-planned revolution, while the rest of us will be drowned out in the noise. I'll sign off from here, and I'll let the video play to the end. Please leave comments below, share the video as you see fit, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. Thank you, and I'll catch you next time.
If I learned one lesson from my time with the CIA, it is this. Everybody believes they are the good guy. I was an officer with the CIA clandestine service and worked undercover on counterterrorism and intelligence all around the world for almost 10 years. The conversation that's going on in the United States right now about ISIS and about the United States overseas is more oversimplified than ever. Ask most Americans whether ISIS poses an existential threat to this country, and they'll say yes. That's where the conversation stops. If you're walking down the street in Iraq or Syria and ask anybody why America dropped bombs, you get, they were waging war on Islam. And you walk in America and you ask, why were we attacked on 9/11? And you get, they hate us because we're free. Those are stories manufactured by a really small number of people on both sides who amass a great deal of power and wealth by convincing the rest of us to keep killing each other. I think the question we need to be asking as Americans examining our foreign policy is whether or not we're pouring kerosene on a candle. The only real way to disarm your enemy is to listen to them. If you hear them out, if you're brave enough to really listen to their story, you can see that more often than not, you might have made some of the same choices if you'd lived their life instead of yours. An Al-Qaeda fighter made a point once during a debriefing. He said all these movies that America makes, like Independence Day and Hunger Games and Star Wars, they're all about a small, scrappy band of rebels who will do anything in their power with the limited resources available to them to expel an outside, technologically advanced invader. And what you don't realize, he said, is that to us, to the rest of the world, you are the Empire and we are Luke and Han. You are the aliens and we are Will Smith. But the truth is, when you talk to the people who are really fighting on the ground, on both sides, and ask them why they're there, they answer with hopes for their children, specific policies that they think are cruel or unfair. And while it may be easier to dismiss your enemy as evil, hearing them out on policy concerns is actually an amazing thing, because as long as your enemy is a subhuman psychopath that's going to attack you no matter what you do, this never ends. But if your enemy is a policy, however complicated, that we can work with.